we're good?
Yep.
Awesome. Well, thanks everybody for joining today. Really excited to be here. Thanks very much for coming. Let me just share out my slides better. Yeah, so today we're here to talk about really what I would like to think of some of my favorite topics of late, biggest being Microsoft Teams, and of course Surface devices, and specifically how they fit into sort of the classroom experience in higher education. As you can see, I'm surrounded by the cool toys too, so I'm fortunate enough to get to work with a lot of this technology and put it to good use in the real world. And I'm going to kick things off here and turn things over to Microsoft pretty quick. But to give us a quick round of introductions in terms of our key presenters, myself, first off, I'm the Vice President of Professional Managed Services for Microserve. I spent nearly the past 2 decades consulting with enterprise, public sector, private sector, and higher education clients. And these days, I get to spend a lot of my time focused on working with our clients in terms of implementing, driving adoption, ongoing management support of M365 Modern Workplace. So this topic is near and dear to my heart. And so next up, we have Praveen. So he's the National Microsoft Surface Education Specialist, and he's going to go into a little bit more depth on that topic. And joining us a little bit later off the start is David Kozera, who's the Microsoft 365 for Education Country Lead. And he's going to do a deeper dive into some of the cool what's coming content. So in terms of an agenda, I'm just going to kick things off, tell you a little bit more about Microsoft or Microserve as it relates to a Modern Workplace in particular. Then I'm going to pass it to Praveen, and he's going to spend some time working with Micah, also for Microsoft, in giving a bit of a live experience around the Surface Hub experience and the technologies and how it can be used in higher ed. And then from there, as I mentioned, we'll turn it over to David, who's going to go through Teams roadmap, talk about experience for higher education and what's coming. Lastly, if we have time, and for any of those that want to stick around a little longer, we'll wrap things with a Q&A at the end. So with that, Praveen, I'll turn it over to you and let you jump in.
Awesome, sounds good. I'm just going to share my screen real quick. Hopefully that works. And are you able to see my screen?
Yeah, perfect. We can see it.
You got it.
Surface Hub 2S.
Perfect. Just pulling up the meeting here just in case. Okay. So welcome everyone. My name is Praveen. I'm the solution specialist for Surface devices in education. And so what we're going to talk about today is more around the Surface Hub 2S and how it really fits into what we call high flex learning. And that's been a term that's been broadly used across higher education. And so I'd like to sort of discuss the scenarios as to how that fits well, and then we'll dive into some demos. But firstly, I'd like to talk about the experience of Microsoft Surface in general. And it more has to do with our end user devices that we started off with. The main device being the Surface Pro, the Surface Pro. I'm going to see if this pen works. Yeah, there we go. The Surface Pro that you see over here. And then we expanded over to the book and then the laptop experience. And then what we truly want to focus on today is the Surface Hub and how we really enable collaboration with such an amazing piece of technology that we will be showing you today. As you all know, the term high flex learning has been used more around being able to deliver on hybrid learning and how to stay really agile within the education space when it comes to not only just the health crises that we've experienced over here, but when it comes to situations that have to do with weather, transportation, bringing people together at once without having to pay for things like transportation costs. And then the other piece is more around unique blends of learning to leverage technology the right way and to eventually lead to increased engagement or personalized instruction based on the different students that we have within the classroom. So that being said, there has to be a solution, especially in higher education, around having students and faculty being able to plug in their devices into a larger screen. And yes, we can do that physically with the wire, but how do we bring that to a more elevated experience? Being able to multitask is super important, and we will show you some scenarios of how that works on the Surface Hub, and being able to collaborate or whiteboard on a digital device. We all do that on Teams right now, but how does that work on the Surface Hub is what I'd like to show you. The other piece is, when you think about the typical meeting room spaces, that technology is pretty static where it's staying in one room. But how do we make technology more mobile? And that's where the Surface Hub fits in pretty well. Being able to cart it from room to room or lecture hall to lecture hall, I think is super important. And then also making sure that we keep our devices secure from threats or malicious or malware. Okay, and so we have the Surface Hub 2S. It's over my shoulder, as you can see. And when it comes to the overall design, there's a lot of innovation that really took place. And it more has to do with from our V1, our version 1 of Surface Hub 2S. It was extremely big, thick, heavy. It was pretty difficult to transport from room to room. And so there was a lot of design that went into making it more of a sleek and thin design, and being able to make it more mobile to cart it from room to room. So we have a great 4K plus screen, a 4K camera that you see on the top of the device, and I'll show you that quickly as well when we do a quick walk around of the device. And then, leveraging Microsoft Teams, we moved from Skype for Business to Microsoft Teams, and what that experience really looks like and how is it well integrated into the device to make it a seamless experience when you join a meeting. The other piece is the whiteboard. I think this is key in talking about Surface Hub. Being able to brainstorm ideas, put things onto a whiteboard digitally, and then being able to work on it continuously, not having to just take a picture, walk away, and not use that content going forward. The other piece is that the device is connected to OneDrive, so you can access all your files, your M365. So like if you're looking at PowerPoint, Word, Excel, even Power BI, you can pull those files up as necessary to be able to present your content. And then the Surface Hub 2S pen is super important. We're talking about the same technology that we see with our Surface pens, and with 4,096 points of pressure, tilt sensitivity, pressure sensitivity. So there's a lot that goes into making sure that this is a fluid writing experience, all while maintaining that digital aspect of our workflow. And the main thing to highlight with our device over here that I have is Windows 10. It comes with Windows 10 Teams Edition. And so, yes, you can upgrade it to your Windows 10 Pro or Enterprise, but it does come standard with Windows 10 Team. And that's because we want to make it sure that it's locked down, it's not exposed to malware, and that you can only download applications from the Microsoft Store. And over time, there's been a lot of development that really happened with our apps in the Microsoft Store. So there's a lot more availability there, preventing people from not thinking about the switch to Windows 10 Pro, but it makes it more of a shareable device at that point from different users that can log into the device, as opposed to making it something where it's intended for one user, like an end user device with Windows 10 Pro, for example. And the last piece here is that you see that there is an APC battery that's mounted to that cart. It is optional, but it extends the ability to use your device for an additional 2 to 3 hours without plugging it directly into an outlet, making it a more mobile solution. And to talk about the Surface Hub right here that you see behind me over my shoulder, this one is a 50.5-inch screen. We do also have the 85-inch available. And that was released in January to make sure that we can cater our customers based on the different meeting spaces that they have. And so if you're looking at a large lecture hall, for example, or a large town hall meeting space, the 85-inch would probably be a better fit in a scenario like that. And so I will walk you through the different scenarios of where you see the Surface Hub fitting within your institution. And this is just sort of like a visualization of what that really looks like. So when it comes to the interactivity of the Surface Hub 2S, as I mentioned, it's a 50.5-inch screen. There's high quality cameras and audio, so there is an 8-element microphone array. What I've heard from feedback with other customers, and this is something that I've tested initially, but we're still hearing this great feedback, is that it's able to pick up audio like 15 feet away from the device, even whispers. And sometimes, those whispers are not intended for everyone, but it can definitely be picked up to show how good quality our equipment really is. And then the last piece is mobility between rooms. Like I always emphasize this piece because it really reduces the cost of the overall technology spend when you're able to bring it from room to room. And then when it comes to that creativity element, like I mentioned, you can use all of your Office 365 applications on it. And you can touch, write, and draw, similar to what you would do with a Surface end user device, but on a larger screen size. So it just allows for better collaboration at that point. And so your presentations do become more versatile. And the ability to multitask is super important within this space. And when it comes to the security of the device, there's security built into the firmware. When it comes to remote management, I think that's super important. You can do zero-touch deployment, and that's super important in today's world. And so being able to deploy technology of that matter, I think it is really important. And you can, remotely wipe all your data. The cool thing about the Surface Hub is that it is secure to the point where when you end a session, everything from the device gets wiped, so it's ready for the next session. And that's something that I'll be showing you as well. Okay, so we look into this. There is the White Surface Hub. The experience there, it works simultaneously with the Teams panel. I don't know if you saw Nigel using the Surface Hub earlier, but he had a panel of people, all the attendees within a Teams meeting. It's on that sidebar over there, all while using the Whiteboard as a possibility or another application. And then the other piece is being able to multitask. You can use two different applications side by side when you're trying to explain parallel concepts within the classroom. And when it comes to, let's say, executive meetings or boardroom meetings, you want to be able to make sure that all participants of the meeting feel like they're part of it, truly part of it. And so having a Surface Hub at the end of the room, displaying in gallery mode, essentially all of the people within the meeting, it just makes it more of an immersive or an interactive meeting at that point. And then the users at home, they can still participate, they can still interact with their device, and you can share content within the same Teams meeting. As for art and design, when it comes to using third-party applications, you can design, illustrate. What I like to highlight is the project that I'm working on at the University of Waterloo, for example, when it comes to the Faculty of Engineering. They're using the Surface Hub with applications for 3D modeling. And so this is a pilot project that they're going through right now, but this is something that's super important when it comes to this space, is being able to collaborate, ideate, and design all on one device. And it's not like there is a PC attached to it. The Surface Hub is that PC with, it has an i5 processor, 8 gigabytes of memory, and 128 gigabyte SSD. So just thinking about the compute power that it has and the intention of making it a collaboration device, it definitely has the power needed to run what you need to run to get that collaboration going. And then in terms of research, there's a great use case here, being able to visually represent your results, data sets, and manipulate data. All can be done on the Surface Hub. A great application that we use for visualizing data is Power BI, and so that can definitely be used within the research space. And last but not least, it depends on the institution, but when it comes to athletics, this is something, a great device that you can do, that you can use for, visualizing plays, being able to sketch that out and see what that truly is like. And then also having interviews and meetings within that collaboration sort of space is super important. And as I mentioned, there is an 85-inch version. They're both really great models, but it comes down to the use case of the room. And that's something that we can definitely discuss after in terms of, looping in the right Microserve rep. And, we can collaborate as part of the Microsoft team to make sure that the right solution is provided for you based on the intended use case. And then when it comes to mobile stands, that is something that we partnered with Steelcase on. So the device that I have behind me, that's on a Steelcase Roam mobile stand. That's the one that I'm using right now to be able to move it from space to space. We do have wall mounting options. Like I said, there is an APC battery that extends the use of 2 to 3 hours without having it connected to a power outlet. And then the mobile stand for the 85-inch version or the wall supported mount, those are all options available. That is a great partnership that we created. However, we do have options with third-party partners. Focus on this in the education space is more around accessibility. Being able to tilt your Surface Hub back is super important. Being able to adjust the height, those are things that you would want to do with it just to make sure it's accessible to everyone. And so those are options that we have available as well. And before I jump into the demo, we have the ability to have you join a Surface Hub executive briefing. You can reach out to your Microserve rep to learn how to demo the product. And, we do have great special pricing for BCNet members. And so, those are things that we want to highlight as we kind of go along. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop sharing my screen and switch cameras. Hopefully this all works pretty quickly. Okay, I'm going to switch over to this one. And I got to turn off my background effect. Okay, hopefully you can see that. I'm going to try spotlighting myself as well.
Yeah, we got it, Praveen.
Okay. Okay, so over here we have the Surface Hub. As I mentioned, there is a 4K camera, and that was the cover that just slipped. But it is a USB-C connector. Hopefully you can see that. And so there are 4 USB-C ports along the sides of the device. So one on top, one on each side, and then one below. And that's to increase the amount of options available. And the reason why you would have it on the side is because there is the ability to swap the cartridge in the back, the compute module of the Surface Hub, to switch it to allow it to turn all the way. So the initial iteration of the Surface Hub 2S was focused on having it standard and landscape mode, but you do have the option of turning it over. And I think, Micah, if you want to turn on your video, he can show how that looks like because he has the ability to do that. So if you see Micah's camera, he just turned it into a portrait mode. And that essentially is to make sure that your experience is more versatile. You can turn it around and have it arranged in a way that you would like. So what we have here is the Surface Hub 2S pen. This is similar to our Surface Pen technology, and that can be magnetically attached over here. There are different ports in the back. So you have your Ethernet port, your USB-A, USB-C, mini display. At that point, you also can attach an HDMI input as well. So you have other devices that you can attach to or connect to it. So you're not limited to the compute module of this. You can connect third-party devices to use this as a display as well. So there's the versatility piece in that. And so the Surface Hub 2S, it would have its own Microsoft Teams Room account or a device end user account that you can load onto it. And then at that point, it becomes that resource account where you can then invite it to a meeting, let's say through Outlook or through Teams. Once you invite it, it automatically accepts it or rejects it based on availability. So for the purpose of this webinar, I created a meeting with a demo account. And so I titled it Lecture Number 1, for example, and I've invited the Surface Hub to it. I've invited Micah Surface Hub to it as well. And so now what you see here is the welcome screen. So with the Surface Hub, there is the one-touch join with the meeting that you've already booked. So in this case, I've invited it to lecture number 1, but you also have the ability to call through Teams, Whiteboard, or Connect. Connect is the ability for you to project your display from a different Windows 10 device onto this wirelessly. And so right now I'm going to hit join. So once I hit join, let me just mute my device real quick. Okay. Okay, I hit. So I already logged in with I already joined the meeting with another device that I have. And then you have your whiteboard experience over here. And so to show you that this is your Teams panel that you have over here, you have your entire whiteboard. The other piece is that you can actually start collaborating. So if I could just get Micah to join the meeting, Micah. So you see his camera. He's joining. And so now we're both in the meeting together. Just going to mute that just in case it creates feedback. And so at that point, when it comes to the overall experience, you can actually expand it to see all of the users within a meeting. And so it literally becomes gallery mode. And so if there are more participants in the meeting, I didn't include it as part of the meeting over here that we're a part of in the webinar, because I'm using our own tenant, our own demo tenant, to show that what the collaboration looks like between multiple hubs or multiple devices. But essentially, you would have that gallery mode where you would see all the users within a Teams meeting. So, Michael, was that you opening the sharing the whiteboard?
It was.
Okay.
You can look on the main board right now.
Okay, perfect. So as you can see, Micah, he shared his whiteboard, and so at that point, we're both collaborating on the exact same thing. And so an example of what I like to show in terms of how quick and easy it is live is showing a game of tic-tac-toe. So Micah, if you want to go next. And clearly Micah did not know what to do. So it just goes to show how quick things can be. When you're looking at the Microsoft Whiteboard experience, that writing experience was very fluid, but there are other features on Whiteboard. So ink to table, ink to shape. So if I wanted to, I can draw a triangle and it'll correct itself to a perfect triangle. You can do the same thing with the circle, a square. And so if I move over here, I can also create a table. So I created a square, right down through it to create 2 columns. Now I'm going to create multiple rows. And then at that point, it allows me to write inside. So I can write my name, and the table will start expanding as I go along. So it just shows you how good the Microsoft Whiteboard experience really is. And it allows for better collaboration. There are things like using a ruler. You can draw a straight line. So if you're looking at a geometry class or a math class, whatever it may be, or like an engineering class, you can start to design and create these layouts for your classroom. And so it really enhances the experience and digitizes the workflow, all while the end users are seeing exactly what's happening on the screen, although they are participating virtually. And so you can see Micah, he put in a Post-it note and he's writing some stuff on there as well. So there's things that you can do. And now as part of the experience, you can hit save or share. Although we're participating on the same thing, you can share it with the contacts within, or the attendees within that meeting, that Teams meeting, or any of the people within the organization, and you can select who those people are. There are other options in terms of saving and sharing. You can export it. You can also save it to your OneNote, save it to your Teams, depending on who initiates the whiteboard. And then overall, the ability for you to multitask is super important, because I can now bring in another application let's use PowerPoint, for example, and you have two applications side by side. So you can be looking at another application that's trying to explain a concept while drawing it out on the other. For the purpose of this one, I'm just going to open the PowerPoint presentation that I have just preloaded onto the device. So I'm going to open that up. And just to show you what that experience looks like when you're presenting that content. So you can have it in full screen mode, just like Nigel had, but at the same time, there are points in time where you can start to annotate, like I did on my device, my own end user device. All of these annotations get logged, and at the end of your presentation, it'll ask you if you want to keep the annotations or not. So that's something that you can do as well. And you know, I'm using a swipe of a finger just to progress through slides. So it's just to show you how quick and easy this experience is. And it's really a seamless experience. So at the end, it asks me if I want to keep my annotations. I can hit keep or discard, and then I can share it with other people within the meeting or students within a lecture. The other piece that I wanted to talk about is being able to display the content of your screen on the Surface Hub. And so if you have an end user device with Miracast functionality, you can use it with an Android device or a Windows 10 device. I have a Surface Pro with me, so I want to display the content of whatever's on my screen onto the device. What I do is I go to that home screen, I hit the Connect application. I'm just going to make it full screen for the purpose of this. And then at that point, it becomes detectable. And so if I hit Windows K on my device, it'll bring up the Surface Hub. So the display name of the Surface Hub is on the bottom. This one happens to be my last name. So I'm going to connect to that display over here. And so now you can see what's on my screen. So I can browse whatever applications I want to. So say if you're limited with applications where you can't download what you want on the Microsoft Store, I can still display the content of my screen, especially when you've installed like .exe applications. You can then share the content of that application on the screen by projecting wirelessly. And so you may wonder, how do I then control the device? If you go to Windows K, it also asks you the question, allow mouse, keyboard, touch, and pen input from this device. If you enable that, you can now control your device from the Surface Hub. So I can add another tab. I can, browse different websites. All of that can be done, and I can interact with, let's say, Teams. Like this whole concept is now allowing you to use your own Surface Pro on the Surface Hub. And you might wonder, what does that experience look like for Apple devices? What do we do in that case? The best alternative to doing that, to be more open, is we have an application called Air Server Surface Hub Edition. You can download that and install the license, and then I just have a trial on this one. But you can install that license, and now it becomes sort of like that Apple TV where you can detect an Apple device and share the content or cast the content on your Apple device onto the Surface Hub. And then your third alternative is to actually do a hardwire connection on the back of the device, either through HDMI or mini display. But it's just to show the versatility behind the device. It's not just locking it down to the Windows ecosystem. Like you can start to use other third-party devices or third-party hardware in conjunction with the Surface Hub. And just wanted to sort of see if there's any questions at all whatsoever before I hand it over to David. Nigel, am I good with questions?
There's currently no questions in the chat.
Okay, perfect.
Nothing yet. Thanks.
No worries. So I'll just stop sharing my, I'll just turn my camera off, and then I'll let David jump into his piece.
Yeah, thanks for being. Anything else to, well, as you wrap up your section, any closing out comments or?
So I would like to say just, if you're interested in demoing the Surface Hub, please reach out to your Microserve rep.
I think we lost him, but David, if you want to jump in and get
Yeah,
started.
sure. Sounds good. And I'm going to put up a screen share here as well. We should have got Praveen to show the new Edge running on Surface Hub too. So for those of you that don't know me, my name's David Kozra. I'm the formerly the National Technology Strategist on the education team, but more recently, as of last fall, moved into the Microsoft 365 for Education country lead role. So today I'm going to be, give me a second here. Today I'm going to give you a quick update on what's new with Teams for Education, where we're going, and what to expect by kind of September, back to school timeframe. So everything that I go over today is on public roadmap, but I've also got a long list of resources as well, and I guarantee you there's a few things that I'll mention today that you hadn't heard of before. So with that, let me just change an audio device here quickly because I want to be able to share my system audio. Yeah, we might have to link to a video, but that's okay. So with that, let's dive right in. So first up that's new is actually attendee registration and email confirmations for Teams. So Teams is great for video chats and live events, etc. But it's been a long-standing ask to have more formal webinar registration as just part of the platform. So we were excited a few days ago actually to release the blog post on this and make it go generally available. So there's a website people can go to now to register for your events. There can be custom questions in there. You can have a speakers section. You can download that registration attendees list so you know who's registered in advance, etc. So really exciting capability now just built right into the Teams platform. And by the way, if there's any questions, feel free to type them into chat. I'm taking a look at the chat window as well. I know this is more higher ed focused on today's call, but I did want to call out a capability that the saying is good for some or necessary for some, but good for all. This is one of those features in Teams. It's what we call reading progress. So we are leveraging AI capabilities, in Teams, to effectively listen to students read aloud, and then from an educator perspective that can then be done at scale. There's always English as a second language, where people are trying to learn English. This is going to help in those scenarios as well. I encourage you to go take a look. This is I think it'll be a real game changer and time saver for some educators. Dynamic view is the next one up. So with dynamic view, as you can see here through the automation, we're going to intelligently arrange layout of teams based on who's speaking, who's pinned, different overlay options, and you might be able to see it on my controls with different presenting options. So I'll caution you, I'm on internal Teams builds on inside Microsoft, so I'll flip through some of these. Your experience may change though, based on what specific release of Teams your organization may be on. But different. Actually, maybe I'll even do this, and you can see them. Different overlay options, so I can actually be sitting above my content. Or I can be beside that content, in a window. Or finally, even reporter view, where it's sitting over my shoulder. So lots of flexibility. You can see, professors, educators, definitely leveraging, these new flexible display options. And Mark has a comment in chat. Did some of this get launched publicly and then pulled back as we had different layout options and they were gone? I don't think so.
It did actually, yeah. So it showed up in Microserve's tenant last week for a couple of days, and I saw in the admin console there was an announcement that they took it away for some kind of issue, and it's rolling out another week from now.
Yeah, that's we're rapidly adding new features into Teams. So and we don't when we roll out a feature in Teams, it's not like, hey, it goes out to everybody and it's there, within an hour. There's multiple waves to a rollout. And yeah, there's times when, and this goes to the flexibility of Teams then, is that it's easy for us to roll something back if there's an issue or some kind of problem. Teams updates itself, for the most part, and it makes it easy for us to fix those types of issues. Awesome. Next up is live reactions. I think we should all have this now. I'm pretty sure global rollout happened. You can click the little hand raise with people icon, and then click like or a little heart, applause, laughing, and that's where you'll see raise hand as well. Improved attendance reports. Educators love their attendance reports. So you will see this at the end of meeting chats now. In fact, you'll see us moving towards a more collection of meeting artifacts all in one place at the end of a meeting, right? Because it's not just about attendance reports. Meetings have PowerPoint decks that were shared. They had whiteboards that were involved. They had tasks that people had been assigned within a meeting, for example. Those sort of meeting artifacts are important. So you'll see us trying to put all that in a nice box with a bow on it for you. Breakout room enhancements. Was so excited. I know many of our customers were for breakout rooms. Launching the very start of this year, and we're hard at work as to what's next and features capabilities. So things like timer until the end of a session, and room assignment retention, participant reassignment. All of those things are coming. So stay tuned. We're not finished with breakout rooms. The best is yet to come. Live transcripts with speaker attribution as well. Very simple to turn on the live transcript capability, and the platform starts transcribing it for you live, in the rail. I'd also say outside of Teams too, other tools like Microsoft Translator, for example, have excellent. If you've never tried the Microsoft Translator app, go give it a try. The conversation options that are in there for real-time conversations, not just for translation, but for transcription purposes, are pretty awesome. And not to mention PowerPoint, live captions as well. That's built right into the PowerPoint client. This one's interesting, but I'm curious to see how it lands and feedback, because people have been asking for authenticated only meetings for a while, but this isn't exactly that. This is invite only. And it allows the people that you've invited, specifically them, to bypass lobby. So it's got some use case in education, but I don't think it's exactly what people are looking for. But I think authenticated only is also something we've been hearing people wanting as well, and we're looking at that too. Does Microsoft have a feature in Teams that allows the video/audio call to ring busy when you're on a call and someone calls? If I'm presenting, then I'm not going to be disturbed. If you're not familiar too, let me do this, and let me find a meeting window that I can actually share. Actually, why don't I do it in here? This works. In the top right, I can actually set a specific status, right? So I could put myself to do not disturb, and people aren't going to break through that with messaging. Now calling is a different thing. If you have Teams, PSTN, for example, Teams voice, where somebody can dial a phone number and get in, that might break through. But you might want to look at, hey, some of these duration options. So, hey, I need to be, unavailable for the next hour. Maybe I just appear offline for the next hour. And I've also seen some really interesting people setting status messages. You do need to flip it to do not disturb. Yeah. So, if you're that would be a manual action on yourself. But for status messages, I should point out, I've actually had a few conversations with institutions recently on pronouns being used in Office 365. That's a great way to make sure that sort of information is, front and center to people within the Teams client, or other important information that you might want to deliver to people, because they're going to see that status message whenever you're in either a one-to-one or a group chat with that person. This one's a big one, I think. I know schools have been, it seems like such a little feature, but schools have been struggling. In my experience, it's more of a K-12 problem where, but I've seen it happen in higher ed, where the meeting URL gets leaked. You're configured for, people to be able to anonymously join within the tenant, right? Which you're going to want to do from collaboration perspective. But maybe that URL gets, maybe a student in that class decides to hop on a VPN on another device, or whatever the scenario, join the meeting, and you put some naughty language in the anonymous name field, which then shows up to the presenters, right? As somebody's waiting in the lobby. Locking the meeting should help with that. So, hey, within the first 5-10 minutes of class, we're going to have everybody be able to attend and join, and that's the time when the educator, faculty member, whomever manages that lobby and controls who can enter, right? And then after that point, meeting is then locked. If you're late, you were late. It's just like real class. You need to you're not going to be coming directly into the classroom and interrupting everybody else. That one, by the way, should be rolling out within the next 30 to, let's say, 30 plus days, hopefully. So I know a lot of people have been asking for that one. The ability to disable meeting chat for all participants is in there as well. So that one has been a big ask. This was another one. We've all seen the issues that now having meetings in everybody's homes have raised, with things in the background. Remember, gosh, how many years ago was it now when that BBC News interview section came up with his kid ending up coming in through the back door? That was what, 3 years ago now? Who knew that we'd all be living that reality in a couple of years later? So we now have the ability to, or will soon have the ability to effectively video mute people, right? So not allow them to share their video feeds, which I know based on at least across the country, it's different policies. I know some organizations that say, hey, you must be using video from an interactive perspective. This is better for students and educators. Or there's some requirements for literally no video. We don't want students using video, maybe because they believe there's a duty of care. If an educator sees something in the background, that needs to be then reported. This removes some of those challenges. And I have quite a list of resources here, so I'm going to leave this page up for a minute, because now I'm going to get you to press the Windows key and pull up your snip and sketch tool, and you can copy that set of links. And I think I've given you enough time, and then we're going to go explore some of these. And Praveen, keep me honest on time here. I want to make sure we leave some time before the top of the hour to go into Q&A, but when do you need me to go till?
It depends on if there is questions. Nigel, I'll refer to you, but we have another 13 minutes left on this. So
Cool. So let me flip over to here. Much of what I've went over today so far, there's more. We kind of did the TLDR version of this blog post for the last 15 20 minutes. Ricardo had a question in chat. Is there a maximum amount of attendees allowed? Good question. That's one of my resources that I've pasted here. And one of those links, why don't we skip right to that one? Specifically in the introducing webinars and teams link that was in the resources, you'll actually see we're now allowing interactive meetings and webinars up to 1,000 attendees and teams. So this is great. We've gone from a few hundred early last year to now over 1,000 people. And I encourage you as well. So this one's on by default. Okay, so you'll be able to burst up to the 1,000, without you needing to do anything. And for most cases, especially in higher ed, like this is great. If you got a large, engineering course or whatever it might be that's got many hundreds of students, perfect. We got a solution there. If you need to go bigger than that, this is available already. You need to turn it on though if you want to use this, and this allows you to effectively burst out of that 1,000 limit where it's interactive all in the same meeting into a view only experience. So think about like a Teams live event effectively, then for anybody else that joins past that 1,000. So pretty neat. And from an end user perspective, like the first 1,000 get that interactive, then after that, it is what it is. You can at least view what's happening. But this is a great way of automatically scaling. So encourage you to try that one out. I'd say for those that have done it, I don't have a great way of testing to make sure it works. That's the question I keep getting with people is like, well, I ran the policy, but how do I ensure? It's like, well, I haven't heard of any issues past the 1,000. You just run the PowerShell and it'll flip to view only automatically. I don't have 1,000 friends that we can invite to test it out, unfortunately. This is the kind of highlight though, is the first link that was in the resources is what we dropped a couple weeks back on Teacher Appreciation Day, and what's going to be, this is the long list you can see by the size of the scroll bar of what'll be available by September. Jim had a question in chat. So will webinar eventually eliminate live events? You can certainly see how regular meetings with view-only experience and webinar registration has some overlap with live events. If you want to have a side conversation, as to where live events is going, happy to if you want to reach out. I encourage you all to go through this list. There's the reading progress that I mentioned. If you want to watch the video, I think this is the 2-minute version. Yeah, quick minute. A really impactful capability. This one's cool for higher ed career coach. It's not part of the Teams platform like out of the box. This is an add-on that you'd add, but it's really interesting how effectively integrating LinkedIn into your team's environment, and the power of LinkedIn and the economic graph, and hey, who's alumni at my university? How where are those alumni now? How did people in the job that I want to be in? What skills do they have, or what education background do they have? Really interesting work coming out of LinkedIn. Math app for teams, assignments, and Whiteboard has a great set of new capabilities coming. We don't have time to go through all this. If you want to skip to the very end, though, there is a too long didn't read version with just the highlights. So I'd encourage you to check that one out. This one I'm bringing up specifically because I keep getting emails from people saying, Dave, I need to host a really big live event and I'm not really sure what to do and I need some help. And if you come to me like the day before an event, there's not much help that I can give. But if you can prepare a little better, you can reach out to our live events assistance team. And today, during preview, that program is free. And so it costs you nothing, but they need a couple days, because we're offering this to everyone. They need a couple days to line up resources on our side. So whether you're going to do a live event or a view-only experience, or you're using OBS or whatever the scenario, we'll support live events up to 20,000 attendees, with this assistance program. This one is a hidden gem, and I don't think many people have spent a whole lot of time kind of understanding, because we've all been worried about, hey, I need a video meeting platform, and yeah, Teams can do that, and it does it really well now. What I think people overlook is that Teams is like way more than just a video meeting platform, right? Yes, we all know that you can create teams and have channels and collaborate on documents, etc. But it's a platform that you can actually develop on top of. And we have a long list of app templates in Teams, for Teams, I should say, that we've co-developed with customers and partners, and then turned around and made available as open source. So we don't, sell and support these templates, but they're free for you to go deploy if you want, right? And customize as you like. So there's a long list of awesome ones. So for example, classroom drop-in. We built this with a school in the US where they needed to be able to have teachers on calls, TAs, whatever the scenario, maybe the school principal, for a period of time, become a team owner. Well, how do you do that without, you don't want to just add, these people into a channel and then their calendars get overwhelmed and you get notification nightmares with all these notifications. Classroom Drop-in's a power app that you can deploy and integrated right into Teams, where a user can either insert themselves into a class team as an owner, or they can select somebody else in the directory and make them a temporary team owner. And then automatically the platform would remove them, or you can optionally renew. So these sort of solutions, you don't need to go buy or ask us. You can take these templates and go do it yourself today. Even things down to, and it might sound crazy, but stickers, for example, becomes, hey, use your what's your mascot for the school, for example. Put that stuff in Teams and it makes it more personable experience. So with that, I'm going to hand things over, I think, and to the Microserve folks. And if there's any questions, follow-ups, feel free to shoot me an email.
Yeah, thanks very much, David. It was really cool seeing some of the stuff that's coming. We do have time, another 4 minutes for questions. Before we do, the one point I wanted to mention, if you didn't see it in our chat, our marketing team will be sending out a survey form for feedback on this session. We definitely welcome your thoughts and ideas. And as a part of that, we'll do a raffle towards a Bose SoundLink Bluetooth speaker. So feel free and watch out for that, fill it in. We definitely appreciate your feedback. Our goal is really to target and tailor some of this content specific for all of you folks. So really appreciate your time coming out and watching this today. Hopefully that was informative. I see Hien just sent the form now in the meeting chat, so feel free and jump in and take that on. Now, in our last few minutes, is there any questions for David, Praveen, myself, any of the rest of the Microserve team? Don't all speak at once. I guess while we're waiting, the one thing I didn't mention at the start of this, in the meeting room I'm in today, we set this up actually so I'm doing a coordinated meeting join, in case you're curious. So combining the power of Surface Hub with traditional MTR devices or meeting Teams room devices. So I've got a Lenovo ThinkSmart Hub 500 that essentially when I hit join, it also called my hub, where I just had to accept the call, and that's actually how I'm presenting today. So I'm using the MTR setup for everything, so that you can actually see what the hub looks like as part of our session.
There's one more question in the chat from Alex. He says, did the 85 Surface Hub 2 have also the APC battery capability? So the 85-inch.
That's a good question. And from a mobility perspective, it does not. Just given the fact that you can mount that battery onto the Steelcase Roam mobile stand, the 50.5-inch right underneath it, but we don't have that capability for something as of yet for the 85-inch. I do hope that there would be something like that. It's just, it comes down to logistics of having to wheel things around. Does it make the most sense? Based on large meeting spaces or large lecture rooms, for example, you'll have the availability of a power outlet. Like based on room design, they typically do have one, but where we see the 50-inch playing a huge role is in mobile meeting spaces, like in the center of a commons, for example. So that's why that factor was placed on that capability was placed on the 50.5-inch. Nothing as of yet for the 85-inch, but hopefully there is something that is created in the near future.
Thanks, Praveen.
No worries.
Anybody have any final thoughts or questions? Either in chat, or you can always feel free to unmute yourself. No? Looks like I think we're good. Well, again, everybody, really appreciate you coming out today. Thank you very much for your time, and hopefully this was informative.
Thank you.
All right, thanks, everybody.